Javanese mystics have cast spells. More conventional machinery and muscle has been brought in. For almost a year, Indonesia has battled to manage one of its greatest environmental and social disasters. A massive mud volcano on the world's most populated island of Java that has submerged whole villages and more.
I've never seen anything like that before. I mean, we've seen blowouts, but I've never seen a blowout as big as this one. This is huge. I mean, we're talking about more than 1 million barrels a day of fluid coming out from the wellbore and the area around it. And that's like a production of oil from the whole Indonesia. 1 million barrels a day. So it's a huge scale.
The best estimates predict that it will continue to gush boiling mud for decades to come. Nothing has stopped it, and now it's time for a new experiment.
So one thing is 2 big balls and 2 small balls. So it's roughly close to 200 kilograms.
In this latest desperate attempt to plug the flow, concrete balls are being dropped into the mouth of the crater.
Normally we could put somewhere between 40 to 60 balls a day.
Professor Satria Bijaksana is one of the team behind this experiment. He admits it's never been tried before, nor is it without its critics.
When we start this project, basically, there are a lot of concern from society in general, and in fact from some scientific community, that this could lead to things like the balls will become projectile. Okay, and so far, thanks God, it's not happened.
From 5,000 cubic metres per day when it first erupted in May last year to 150,000 cubic metres today, this mud volcano shows no signs of slowing down. And its full impact is not yet known, with new problems emerging as the ground around here begins to subside. This man's house lies just over there, but you can't see it.
Jarak 100 meter itu 2 meter.
Houses here are sinking as the mud settles, leaving only the salty water that erupted with it visible. It erupted close to where an exploration company was drilling for gas 2 days after a massive earthquake flattened much of Yogyakarta 600 kilometres away. So far, the mud has swamped more than 9,000 houses and dozens of factories. It's forced the permanent relocation of the Cross-Java toll road, and the rail link will have to be moved. In this village, what's not submerged is being carried away. Juwarno is salvaging what he can from his family's home. Almost 1 year on, he's waiting for compensation to be paid for what he's lost.
Saya minta ganti rugi masalah perumahan dan tanah milik saya ini secepatnya diselesaikan. Itu aja permintaan saya. Cash and delivery. Maksudnya bukan direlokasi, saya minta uang tunai sebagai ganti rugi rumah dan tanah saya.
As the flow continues to advance, thousands more live in fear their houses could soon be swamped. It now covers more than 6 square kilometres, an area roughly the size of Sydney CBD.
Ini jurusan kampung Besuki sana itu, langsung ke jalan tol. Proyek-proyek itu yang ngangkuti itu dari sana itu, dari daerah Pasuruan, ngangkuti apa itu, sirtu-sirtu itu.
Along the site's western edge, all that protects these villages from going under is this 3 kilometres long and 15 metres high levee. It's holding back some 21 million cubic metres of mud.
Itu, di tanggul sebelah tanggul sana itu sawah saya. Situ.
Satimo was a rice farmer. His fields are now submerged in salty water.
Oh, kerembesan itu, dari sana itu. Ini lokasi sawah ini mas, lokasi sawah. Sampai ke sana ini lokasi sawah.
And like many, he fears the levee won't hold back the rising mud tide.
Kalau khawatir, kalau waktu tengah malam itu kan kampung terus ramai. Lumpur datang, jebol. Kenyataannya di spewed itu, spewed nggak jalan, akhirnya di sini airnya meluber, jadi masuk ke kampung, masuknya lewat sana itu.
In November last year, the levee broke. 13 people were killed when the mud flow swamped a gas pipeline, sparking an explosion. As workers test the ground for subsidence, the battle over what caused this disaster and who is going to pay for it is being slugged out. There are 2 schools of thought. One blames the earthquake, which struck 2 days before the mud erupted. The other points the finger of blame at the company drilling for gas. It's pitted 2 of Indonesia's most powerful families, the Bakris and the Panagoros, both partners in the project and long-time political rivals, against each other. The third partner in this project is Australian oil and gas company Santos. Act of God or not, the fallout from this disaster is being keenly felt in Indonesia's capital, Jakarta. In a nation where politics and business have long been closely intertwined, just who is going to be held accountable is being closely watched. For the company behind the drilling is part of a conglomerate owned by one of Indonesia's richest men, Abu Rizal Bakri. He's also the nation's welfare minister and a major contributor to the campaign of President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. Now, as the cost of the disaster continues to mount, one of the companies in this project has gone on the record blaming its Indonesian partner for this multi-million-dollar disaster. Speaking to Dateline, Hilmi Panagoro, CEO of Medco Energy, has openly accused its operating partner, Lapindo Brantas, of gross negligence. He claims Lapindo's subcontractor did not use the proper protective casing while drilling. Lapindo Brantas is majority owned by the Bakri family. Why do you say that it was gross negligence? What's the cause? Is it about the drilling? Is it about the casing?
Well, casing is just one of them. I think we have a series of different events within the drilling sequence that we think constitute the gross negligence of the process.
This very public disaster has allowed a rare glimpse into business practices and politics in Indonesia today. Bambang Harimurti is editor of Indonesia's leading investigative magazine, Tempo.
Because this is, Indonesia now is kind of like a Wild West, where, you have law, but it doesn't really work, especially when it involves big businesses. So the whole thing is in the public eyes now, because you can't hide this big flow of mud. And who's going to pay for it? And now you can hide the company's ownerships. Everything in the open now.
While powerful political connections have proved the path to business success in the past, it appears Minister Bakri, a one-time presidential contender, is now paying a high price for his political ambitions. His family's companies are accused of not only causing the disaster, but trying to avoid responsibility.
But now, because it is owned by a politician, and the funny thing is he was responsible for the welfare of the people, and now it become different. It become like you cannot just stop at paying just the maximum a limited company should pay, but you are personally held responsible for this.
Abu Rizal Bakri refused repeated requests to speak to Dateline. But earlier this year, when he spoke to foreign correspondents in Jakarta, he moved to distance himself from the disaster and his family's financial involvement in Lapindo.
You better ask Lapindo, okay? I'm the coordinating minister of the social affairs.
He maintains the crisis was not caused by drilling, but by a natural disaster.
And that hole is not the hole that is drilled by Lapindo. It's nothing to do. There's no drill. The hole is outside Lapindo, the drill holes. It is the holes there, just coming up like this. It happens a lot of places in the world.
The real cause, he claims, last year's earthquake, which flattened much of Yogyakarta.
And you have to say the experts, not me. The experts which have already studied Jakarta all over the world has already said that it is not because of the Lapindo case, drill, but because of the earthquakes.
That view has become the mantra of those involved on the Bakri side of the argument. Suyitno Patmosakismo is the chairman of Lapindo's parent company, Energy Mega Pasada, a listed company controlled by the Bakris.
Many institutions did some studies, many geologists, engineers. They tend to say that this is natural disaster rather than mechanical or technical problems of the drilling.
Amian Wadodo is an environmental geologist at the November 10 Institute of Technology in Surabaya.
This is the real mud from Lapindo.
He's been collecting data to see if the earthquake, whose epicentre was 600 kilometres away, could have had an impact. As head of the Institute's Disaster Studies Centre, he's investigating not just what's happened here, but Indonesia's response to it. With the tremor from the quake registering only 0.2 on the Richter scale by the time it reached the drilling site at Sidoarjo, he's ruled it out.
Dan kita menemukan dari berbagai kejadian mud volcano yang ada di dunia, itu terjadi kalau skalanya lebih dari 5 dalam jarak sekitar 50 km. Ini terlalu jauh dari Jogja.
Police have also been conducting their own investigations. And despite a barrage of publicity surrounding the company's claims that this was a natural disaster, they now believe they have sufficient evidence to mount a case of criminal negligence.
Namun setelah dilakukan penyelidikan dan penyidikan, ternyata kasus Lapindo ini ada unsur pidananya, yaitu ada kesalahan di dalam pelaksanaan teknis drilling yang dilakukan oleh para pelaku-pelaku drilling.
Nyoman Sukana is heading up the police investigation. He firmly believes his team has built a strong case against the well operator. But under Indonesian law, it is the Department of Prosecutions who'll decide whether there's enough evidence to mount a case.
Ini murni adalah kasus kriminal, pidana, kasus pidana. Jadi hambatannya hanya masalah koordinasi saja. Apakah di tempat lain ada tekanan? di tempat lain dalam artian di tingkat kejaksaan kami tidak tahu. Yang jelas di tingkat penyidikan Polri tidak ada tekanan dari pihak manapun.
They are not, at the present moment, they are not saying that, they haven't said that this is criminal.
They're saying it is a criminal case.
From very limited point of view, very limited angle, a special angle from the police.
Well, it shows that the police are impotent when it faces people in high positions, that our police are still far from being independent and being fair to all part of society.
Even though they have a huge dossier there, they're ready to go, it's up to the prosecutors to decide whether there is a case.
Well, you know, maybe they will say that so, but there is always a suspicion linger on, you know, that the police and the prosecutor sometimes they blame each other, you know, when they are facing with what they call hot potato cases.
It has now emerged that following an open tender, the drilling contract for the well was awarded to a company owned partly by one of the minister's nephews. And it's been accused of causing the mud flow by trying to cut corners and save costs.
Well, for instance, my own magazine has found out that this company is such an inexperienced company that they never drill any oil and gas before. They only have experience in water drilling, and they are so much in trouble that, you know, a project that's supposed to take only 2 weeks or something has been going on for more than 90 days. So they're clearly on a cutting costs.
The Indonesian government has been remarkably quiet about what caused this disaster, and it seems none of the key players want to take the rap. But the Bakri family company, accused of causing the mud volcano to erupt, has already paid out more than $142 million for a disaster it continues to deny any responsibility for. And this amount could increase significantly if anyone linked to the operation is deemed negligent. If it is found in the end that it is a result of error by the company that did the drilling, should they be held accountable?
I don't want to speculate on this. We will see. We will see.
Does EMP accept any responsibility for this?
What do you mean by any responsibility?
Quite simply, any.
Well, I think there should be a limit. There should be a limit.
Joint Indonesian partner Medco Energy has refused to pay, saying it's not liable. Instead, it's pursued legal proceedings against operator Lapindo Brantas, accusing it of negligence.
As a director of a public company, I have to protect my shareholders.
But Australian exploration company Santos has paid up to the tune of $20 million, promising tens of millions more. Its 18% stake in the joint venture has cost it dearly. Its profit line has taken a huge hit since the mud began flowing.
We've made a provision for 89 million Australian dollars in our accounts. That's the Board of Directors' best and most prudent estimate based upon the information that we have available to us at this time.
Santos won't be drawn on what caused the disaster, and it too maintains its decision to contribute barrels of money is not about liability.
Because we think it's the right thing to do, and we've determined that the most appropriate thing for Santos to do at this time is to provide full and effective support to our operator and to the national team established by the President of Indonesia, and that reflects a very clear principled position by the company.
This is how Indonesia's Chief Welfare Minister explains his family company's actions.
So if this is not the fault of Lapindo, why is Lapindo paying all this money?
I said to you, there's an Indonesian way of living which is very difficult to be understood by you. It is in Indonesian. We have to do this.
What does he mean by Indonesian value? Does Indonesian value mean that if you are in that political position in any normal country, at least you would tender his resignation as a show of respect to the people? But this is not. I don't think that's an Indonesian value. This shows a lot of the negative side of Indonesian value.
Jimail is another struggling with the welfare minister's notion of Indonesian values.
Iya, di komunitas besar dari sebagian kecil rumah saya sana.
Jimail had only recently moved to this village. Now he's lost not just his home, but his livelihood.
Dan Abu Rizal Bakri beserta krunya tidak mau bertanggung jawab, cuci tangan, minta enaknya sendiri.
But it's not so much the minister's response to the disaster, but his family company's attempts to rid itself of Lapindo and its liability that has caused the most outrage. Twice they've tried to sell it and been blocked by Indonesian regulators. The last attempt was to a company registered in the Virgin Islands. I mean, there have been attempts to sell it off twice now. Is that still what you intend to do?
Well, that is actually the best solution for us, being a public company. This is to protect not only the major shareholders, but including especially the minor shareholders.
But what about the people who have been affected by this?
Well, they have been taken care as what we have already agreed or was already directed by the Team Nasional.
In another corporate twist, Medco Energy, the company accusing Lapindo of negligence, has now been bought out for $100 US. The new owner, a company backed by the Bakri family. Hilmi Panagoro maintains the victims of the disaster will be better off.
I think it is a good impact for them, because as I said, we have been refusing to pay cash call. Now a new company taking over our working interest is willing and able to pay the cash call. So I think it's good for the people.
Authorities here admit they are barely coping. They've tried pumping the mud into a nearby river, but it won't flow. It's too heavy. These excavators are attempting to stir it along as dam walls grow taller. Now work is underway building a new channel direct to the sea, 17 kilometres away. But nature is against them. This mud volcano is just 3 metres above sea level.
Ya untuk skala sedikit bisa berjalan, tapi untuk skala momen sebanyak ini, I think cannot do anything.
While the companies battle it out, and the government is yet to decide whether this disaster was an act of nature or negligence, thousands of people wait for their fate to be determined. Atik Suziato has taken up temporary residence in the town's marketplace. She is yet to hear whether she qualifies for rental assistance, but without it, she's stuck here. The outcome of this disaster is very clear to her.
Kalau misalkan Lapindo orang-orang yang berhasil itu kan kekayaannya untuk mereka, tapi kalau ada masalah gini yang mendapat korban itu kebanyakan rakyat-rakyat ini.
You could say very